Thank you. First of all, for providing this time to have a discussion around problems of Sahel, which integral part here of the problems we face across the continent. Most of the issues are linked, there is no doubt about it, whether it's about security or poverty or development aspects of our situation that we have to look at. And sometimes you may find all those names, Sahel, Maghreb, or so many names, but I hope they serve more to bring coordination and integration of these parts of our continent rather than divide the continent. Sometimes the northern part is looked at by some people as if they belong to Europe and not to Africa, depending on what they are talking about, or they look at the northern part of Africa and look at it as part of Africa, which is the right thing, depending on who and where they stand on that. But my main point is to look at the problems of the whole continent and what we can do together to address most of these problems. One, I think Africa and the African Union has already made progress in trying to address these problems in an integrated way. And in fact, Africa has been trying to build institutions and effective ones, or later on efficient institutions to try and meet the needs of these global or wider challenges we face across the continent. I think that's what gives rise to the African Union reforms that we have talked about, whether it is institutional reforms or financial reforms, in which case we are trying to say, can Africa contribute to the efforts intended to stabilize Africa and allow it to develop as we should. Also, that means financial reforms refers to what is it that Africa can do if all countries were to contribute financially to the running of African activities, and at the top of the list being peace and security fund that is being created so that we can run some of these operations that are required as we wait for or as we work together still with our partners from outside of the continent, and they are always present. Third, the point I want to make is there have been many efforts already stated. I'm happy to join my brother, the president of Burkina Faso, who has already explained to us what is being done and what is being looked at and what remains to be done. But I think, as we all heard, there are many efforts, whether by the UN or by Sahel or by European Union or by individual countries of Europe, and then the coming together of the 5 states of Sahel region. The key point here is going to be not so much the number of people contributing to this, but also how do they coordinate so that really there are not necessary overlaps or even wastage of resources and so on. So if we look at the outcomes, as earlier the word was used, which is very important, then we can decide the best way to work together and coordinate, and so that we get really the outcomes we want. Most of the time, a lot of what would have been obtained is lost in the lack of coordination, the friction, each one, the competing interests in one area, and you find a lot of resources have been used, and yet the outcomes haven't been achieved as was the intention. So for me, I would suggest, and I'm sure that's what the leaders of these 5 countries and others around who are working together with them, and also at the African Union, we are always trying to look at how can we efficiently do business so that there is not a waste of time, or how can we get to effectively do what we want to do and stop this wastage of resources just because we can't coordinate, and even learn from the past mistakes that the world has made, or even Africa has made. We've made a lot of mistakes. We should learn from them, and the mistakes arise out of being slow to react, or even when you have reacted, you are reacting in a manner that is not coordinated, and it goes on and on and on. We keep talking about the problem and defining it properly, but not doing what is right and at the right time to give you the outcomes you want. So my intention here was to just raise this voice, speaking to coordination, empowering those people who are, who are really directly concerned with the problem. I'm talking about supporting the countries that are already at the forefront in the Sahel region to actually carry effectively this burden, but be supported also as much as required, as well as adding whatever capacities that are lacking and filling the gaps that exist. I think this would definitely give us the outcomes we want. It's a complex problem, it's very challenging, but I always believe it is not insurmountable, and we can make progress if we only do the right things the right way and at the right time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.